So what we're going to talk about is trying to move from the theory of Lean IT to the application of Lean IT. I think everybody here is familiar with the theory. It's all well and good, but we've seen in too many cases theory is just theory. In other words, we can't apply it. And I would suggest that theory that's not applied is muda. It's really waste. We're reading books, we're going to workshops. If we can't translate that into a benefit to the business and to the associates in the business, it really isn't helping anybody. It's just more words, and we don't need more words. So when you hear the term Lean IT, what does it mean to you? How would you define Lean IT? Basically, Dan was talking about applying Lean in two directions. We call it inward and outward. In other words, we can apply the Lean principles, methods, and tools to Lean operations for efficiency. But that's just working on my own backyard. We can also leverage Lean and IT to enable the organization to flow value at the value stream or value system level. Would everybody agree that, yeah, that's Lean IT? It's basically, but it's both. It's looking inward and it's looking outward to the whole organization. What I've found in the organizations I've had a chance to work with is the most natural systems thinkers in the organization, where do you think they are? They're in the IT department. When we talk about Lean IT, we're talking about taking the principles, systems, and tools of Lean and applying them to drive ideal behavior in the organization. IT is the nervous system of the organization. So many companies that I've seen, we're on our, quote, Lean journey. And the first question I like to ask is, so what are you doing with IT? What do you think the number one response I get when I say, so what's IT doing with your Lean journey? What do you think the first thing I get is? Yeah.
Left aside.
Yeah, IT is not involved. We're not doing it. IT doesn't do it. And then what's the next question I like to ask? Why? What do you think the number one reason is? IT is too busy. So where is the value in IT? You know, when I get to work, if I'm lucky enough, I've got a nice wide screen like that on my desk. So where's the value? If I can see it here on the shop floor, where's the value in IT? What's your company spending $100 million a year on, or whatever they're spending? Sometimes it's much more than that. So what is the weave? Well, you know, when we think about a value stream, think about IT. What do we have? Well, in most organizations, you'll see these various silos. You've got governance and budget. You've got enterprise architecture, prioritization, the project management office, et cetera, et cetera. Here's application development, operations, infrastructure, and of course the help desk. So what's wrong with that? Well, there's nothing wrong with it. That's how most organizations are designed. And can anybody identify with this chart and these silos? We've all lived it for years. But from a user perspective, all they care about is the value stream. What is the value stream? Well, to the user, it's when do I get my application? When are we going to launch the enhancement? It's, can I please get an answer on why my printer doesn't work? You know, when is the server going to be up? So it could be the help desk. We are so focused on our various local optimization, our various measurements that drive our specialties, that we obscure the value stream. So when I call and I say, why is my application not delivered? I get the runaround. Well, you're going to have to talk to the project management office. Project management says, we're still waiting on something from enterprise architecture. It's not our fault. Don't blame us. And it's all this finger pointing. Nobody really takes responsibility because we're not thinking of things in terms of a value stream or a value system approach. We've really obscured that altogether. What we want to do is move back to this. We want to put at the front this focus on the value stream and not the silos. But we need an IT organization that we have a shared awareness of both local optimization and delivery of the value stream. So the good part about the weave is within the silos, we've got expertise and execution. However, within the value stream, we've got collaboration and communication. And what I see is organizations that are really good on silos, they're very weak on collaboration and communication. Often this has to do with the underlying systems that are driving the behavior. So this is something I learned from Shingo, or from the Shingo Prize. When we are seeing behavior that we're not pleased with or not ideal behavior, look at the system. Look at the system. Typically, the system that is driving this behavior is your reward and recognition system, and your compensation system, and your management system. Your measurement system. So one thing that's very foreign in the IT department often is PDCA, is scientific thinking. Why? It's not because they don't understand it, it's because that's not what we're measuring. We have a different culture. So I have a down system, and my fab is down, and it's costing me $20,000 a minute. What do I need to do? IT says, reboot the server. See if that works. And usually it does, but there's no root cause analysis. There's no, let's get into it afterwards and do some kind of triage and make sure this is prevented. So what we end up doing is hard-coding solutions, writing stored procedures that aren't documented, pasting things together, and pretty soon we have such a mess we can't even explain it to ourselves. Ask yourself, the organization that I'm working with, could we rebuild our system from metal? Could we rebuild our system from metal? And if you're honest, very few companies can. Why? It's because we have so many layers of technical debt that we've really lost our way. And one approach that I like to use is this simple four-step method. First of all, we need to understand what is the business problem we're trying to solve. So when I say understand the real work, with real in italics, what real means is what's the problem to the business? If I cannot explain what I'm trying to do in terms of the business context, I don't understand what I'm trying to do, and I should not move forward. So what we need to do is think about projects in a different way. First, we start with the business problem, then we ask ourselves, what are the barriers or opportunities to that problem? Then and only then do we move to countermeasures and the normal PDCA cycle. It's got to be this way. If you're not looking at things from this perspective, you need to consider it. You need to say, how can I take my IT organization and move it in another direction? The working sequence that is effective is first start with process improvement. Of course, we're looking at quality, speed, and cost. Then, and only then, define the information requirements. And then, once the information requirements are in place, then we can start looking at technology and system requirements. That's the sequence that works versus kind of the theory of, well, we'll all just be lean, let's read a few books on lean and try to apply it to IT. Our challenge was, if you can't make it simple, our rule was make it understandable, documented, and make it repeatable. If it's not repeatable, it's really not understandable. So this is a nice test to ask. Do we really understand what we're doing? It sounds so obvious, but often we're so in love with the technology that we keep it, IT's too busy to improve. They're just heads down coding all day, and we're just mistaking activity for value, for results. And then avoid workarounds. So examples of applying lean to IT. These are just some of the areas that I've had the opportunity to work with. Think of anything that you do in a repeatable fashion. They're perfect candidates to introduce these lean tools. So server deployment. Worked at one large organization, and every time they deployed a server, it was like a brand new thing. It was like they had never done it before. No templates, no standardized work, nothing. I said, well, how do you know what to do? And they said, well, Johan knows what to do. I said, well, what happens if Johan's not available? What if he's on vacation? Well, we wait until he comes back. I mean, that's just, somebody's back there going, yes, that's exactly what we do. The problem with that is, I mean, is that any way to run a company? Would we do that in any other department? Would we say there's only one engineer that kind of understands that product and he's on vacation, so we can't do anything? Of course not, but we do it in IT. There's nothing magical about this. It's going in and doing the hard work of applying lean tools in an IT environment.
We have applied lean in application development, where the basics of lean. We're pretty sure it's working. My only issue is, how do you measure the productivity in application development and the efficiency that you can get out of it?
Yeah, that's it. You know, that's interesting. There's a lot of discussion about measurement in IT. And most of the measurements that we've got out there really aren't telling us a lot. Here's my short take on it. I believe that the only real value is a working application long after the release. So if we're looking at lines of code that are developed per day, or did we make the go live or not, I really think that's short-sighted. What we should be looking at is percentage of features that are used in the application after launch, number of help desk tickets associated with the new application, which really, what you're touching on, these measurements, tie directly into DevOps. Because now what we do is we ask Dev to be responsible for those measurements, not help desk. And right now what we're doing is we're saying, help desk, that's your problem. DevOps is busy developing the next new tool. So basically what we need to do is manage or measure value down the value stream, not at the point of release. Yes?
I just want to add one thing to what you say.
Yes.
There's something that we really did recently. So if you optimize IT, reduce cost of IT by 10%, and IT is 10% of our organization, effectively you just cut 10% or 1% of IT of overall organizational budget.
Yes.
But if you improve your IT efficiency, value provided by IT, 10%, you provide 10% of overall cash flow.
Sure. The, in the organizations I've worked with, the first year alone, we're seeing, and they measure this, I don't measure this, we're seeing gains, call them productivity gains if you'd like, of somewhere between 1.4 and 2.5 million in the first year.